With everyone locked inside, food delivery boomed during COVID, but as the pandemic eases, companies like Menulog are doubling down on the sector. Here to talk about what might be on the menu for New Zealand is Menulog Managing Director Morten Birk Belling and Commercial Director Rory Murphy. Welcome, boys.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having us.
So what brings you over from Australia right now?
Well, I think it's an obvious opportunity for us to meet the team here. We have been building out the business for a long time, but because of the pandemic, it's been hard to connect with them. So for us, it's really a matter of getting back here and connecting with the teams, being out there, visiting restaurant partners and grocery partners that are on our platform to really reconnect with the teams.
And currently you sort of have about 83% of New Zealand's population covered. How high do you want that to go? Do you want to get 90? Do you want to get 100?
I can pick that up. So the service is essentially available everywhere. So anyone who's got a mobile phone or a computer can log on to Menulog and make an order if we've got restaurants in that space. So we'd ideally like to service 100% of the population, assuming that there are restaurants available in that area. We've got two services in the business. So we have restaurants who use their own delivery function, and that's generally available everywhere that a restaurant is happy to be doing orders themselves. And then we've got a delivery service where we actually provide the delivery function, and that's been the big piece of expansion over the last sort of 12 months in New Zealand.
And what goals do you have here in the New Zealand market?
I think we're a very ambitious bunch of people. We have been around for long. As Rory mentioned, we've got more than 3,000 partners in our network. We are servicing 85% of the population. We provide more than 75 different cuisine types as well. So we've done a lot of work in that space, building a choice for the customers, and we will continue to expand on that in the future. There's plenty of opportunity out there. And then next to that, I think the big job we've got ahead of us now is to really create the awareness of the brand, of the Menulog brand in New Zealand. We've spent a lot of time and effort and money in building the foundations behind the business, and that's now in place. We've got a solid team. We've got a good amount of partners on the platform. So now we really want to over-index on creating the awareness. So you're going to hopefully see a lot more advertising from Menulog in the future.
Oh, very exciting.
Yeah, I might add to that as well that I think part of the agenda is also to drive some good, healthy competition in the market. I think, we look at our Australian business and Australian consumers and restaurants have been the beneficiaries of a very healthy, competitive market in the category that we're in. And I think that New Zealand is sort of largely at the other end of the spectrum on that, where it's been less competitive. And I think that's a sort of a day in and day out, that's part of the agenda. We hear from restaurants all the time in New Zealand that they are I think not satisfied with the level of competition. Competition is healthy. It brings better pricing for restaurants, better pricing for consumers, and I think that there's quite an apparent need to really kind of drive that in the category here. I think it will be beneficial for the restaurant and hospitality industry in general.
And how do you plan on sort of remaining competitive with Uber Eats and DoorDash?
I think one of the big standout points for us is that we are, again, a local brand. We want to really appeal to the population here because we're all about supporting local businesses. We are a local business as well. So we are, again, going to spend a lot of time in trying to connect. We're not a faceless business. We are a tech company. We appreciate that. But we are, again, spending a lot of time being out there, connecting and building a true partnership with our partners. We're also standing out in the sense that, Rory mentioned this earlier, that the core of our business is working with restaurants that do their own deliveries, which is not what the competitors are typically doing. So that's a little bit of a differentiator there as well. So there's a lot for us to do here, right? I think we have been, in the past, we've been in an industry that's dominated by dinner occasions in particular. We want to make it super clear that there's more than us than just dinner. We're servicing breakfast occasions, lunch occasions, late night snacks as well. Groceries is a big component of our business as well, where in the last 12 months' time we've grown that business by more than 400%. So there's a lot more to be gained out there.
And so switching back to grocery for a minute, that's obviously been a growing part of your business. How far do you see that going? Do you sort of see yourself going into alcohol or non-perishable sort of non-food items?
I think if you look at the vision of the company, that is really to empower your every food moment. That's what we're here for. And that is also why we are tapping into the grocery industry, right? Because that's a substitute for what we traditionally did. And Alcohol is part of the convenience play, we believe, but right now the focus is really to tap into the grocery and convenience stores that are around New Zealand.
And you've been doing a lot of partnerships with petrol stations over in Australia. Have you got any sort of new partnerships you can talk about with us today?
We're doing a lot in Australia. We're also doing a lot in New Zealand, right? So again, more than 3,000 partners already. When it comes to the grocery and convenience play, we've got a partnership with Night and Day, for example. That's a national brand, more than 50 stores that we service across New Zealand. And those are the opportunities that have come up really during the pandemic as well, where people have been in lockdowns. You haven't been able to do the things you normally did. So lots of those partnerships are going to be focused on as well going forward. But those are examples of partnerships we already have.
And let's talk a wee bit about COVID. What impact did COVID have on you guys?
It's been a ride for all of us, I think. And as much as we would have loved to have been without the pandemic, obviously we've been in one of the industries that has really boomed during the pandemic. People have been locked in back home, a lot of restrictions, dining in shutting down, which is very unfortunate. The first step for us there was to make sure that we really stepped up and that we supported the communities that are out there. You have to remember that as a business, if our partners do not thrive, we don't thrive as a business either. So we really had to hustle a little bit. We needed to repurpose the way we were working as a team. A person who used to work in HR might be working on onboarding a restaurant because we wanted to make sure that we could really support our partners. We put out a lot of relief packages for restaurant partners during the pandemic to make sure that they could stay afloat. And then obviously it was about really servicing the influx in demand we saw from customers as well. So it's been a big ride. We're now on the other side, and I think it's time to park COVID and look ahead. And that's why we're excited now to be out here as well and see the people in person. We have hired across Australia and New Zealand hundreds of people during the pandemic. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to connect with a lot of those new joiners. And that's a challenge because we want to really build a strong culture in our business. So to be able to come out here now and speak to our teams, see our restaurant partners is really, really refreshing.
Do your riders feel a little bit like they're getting a bit of a raw deal if you're sort of offering restaurants the ability to do their own deliveries as well?
No, I don't think that sort of dynamic has come up to my knowledge. I think that they're distinct services. I think one of the biggest challenge right across that entire portfolio, I think both in Australia and New Zealand and in many countries at the moment, is overall labour supply. There's a significant shortage of workers in general across many categories. Tourism and hospitality is a classic example of that. Many of the restaurants are struggling with front of house staff at the moment, as are they sort of challenged at times to continue to find drivers who will do their deliveries. So I don't think that there's really a sort of a concern between the two different platforms. I think they work quite seamlessly. Some restaurants would like to be in control of the full service themselves. They'll have their own driver who they build a relationship with, and they might do that for a range of reasons, be it financial or sort of service orientation or whatever the case may be. It might simply be something that they've done for many, many years and they're good at doing. There's a number of, your classic pizza restaurant that home delivers themselves. Some of them do a very good job of it. They've got their own distinct sort of processes. On the delivery side of the business, that's used by, again, sort of a whole other subset of restaurants. Labour at the moment is the biggest challenge that I think the broader industry faces across both the New Zealand and Australian markets from our perspective.
And in Australia, you were sort of unsuccessfully appealed to employ some of your riders as employees. And is that something you're going to continue sort of fighting for, and that sort of fair pay?
Yeah, we always compliant as a business, and we always want to do better as a business as well. And you're right, one of the things we are looking at in Australia is to move to an employee model or hybrid model where we can offer employment for those workers who are interested in that. That's not an easy thing to do. In Australia, you are governed by a modern award system that was rationalised or put in place in 2009. That was years before the gig economy even existed. So we're dealing with a completely new industry, and for that reason, to move towards employment, there's a lot of steps we need to go through. But we haven't stopped that mission. We still believe that employment is the gold standard for us in this industry. In Australia, the Fair Work Commission has decided on what they call a threshold question, which is whether or not an existing award could apply for the industry. That's not the same as it should apply. And for that reason, we still believe that there's a lot of nuance in what we're doing compared to the existing modern award system. And for that reason, we will continue to fight towards a new modern award that is more tailored to our industry and more taking into account the flexibility, but also the minimum standards that we want to fight for.
And how does that compare to New Zealand, sort of in the gig economy here?
Well, it's the same model effectively we're running in both Australia and New Zealand. The focus right now when it comes to employment is to nail that in Australia first. It's a very big project. Nobody else has done this in the past. We believe that that's the right way of going about it. Having said that, we are also working with independent contractors in both Australia and in New Zealand. And what we're trying to do is that we are trying to lift the standards there as well. We believe that we are paying fairly. We are making sure that couriers are covered by proper insurance. We've got a very comprehensive onboarding program, which is ensuring safety around couriers, proper protective wear as well. So we're doing a lot of stuff to bridge the gap between what it means to be an independent contractor and an employee. But we still believe that the exclusive nature on employment relationship is better for the overall industry, and that's why we're pushing hard on that in Australia. And who knows, in the future we might do the same in New Zealand. But right now that's the priority for Australia.
And just moving over to your parent company, Just Eats Takeaway, shares have sort of been on a downward slide this year. Are you worried that the boom is over for sort of, sort of delivery services and food delivery?
Not at all. I think there's a lot of macro things playing into the capital markets at the moment. There's a war going on. There are talks of recession. We all see how prices are going up in both Australia and New Zealand, and they are macroeconomics and geopolitical situations that we don't control. They are definitely impacting consumer demand, but we've got a very healthy business. We've been around for many, many years. Our core business is still the business where we're working with restaurants doing their own deliveries, and that's a very, very profitable side of our business, which we know some of our competitors do not have. So we are well positioned for the future. There's a lot more demand to be captured out there. Right now, it's just a stage where there's a hesitation overall in the capital markets. Financial markets are suffering for that reason. Tech stocks in particular are impacted. For us as a business, they are all things we cannot control. Right, so we've got to just look at that, accept it, but focus on the things we're really good at, and that's again executing on our strategy, which we think is a winning strategy.
And your sibling company GrubHub might be up for sale. Do you think sort of Menulog might have a similar fate, or could you see it going independent at all?
Look, those are all rumours in the press. I think anything is up for sale for any price, So. Again, we don't worry about that. We are focusing on executing our strategy, and we're really good at doing that. I think we've gained a lot of market share, especially during the pandemic. We're going to do a lot more in New Zealand as well going forward. We talked about building our brand out, and in a month's time we will be launching a very, very big advertising campaign in the market, which is something we've never done before. So that's again a reflection of us looking at what we do control in the market and worrying less about the talks in media about GrubHub or iFood in Brazil or share markets being suppressed and whatever else. Like we can control all of that stuff.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much, boys.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.